watching me. She said, I never seen a man who looks so all alone, or could you use a little company? And if you pay the right price, your evening will be nice, and you can go and send me on your way. I said, you're such a sweet young thing, why do you do this to yourself? She looked at me, and this is when she said, oh, there ain't no rest for the wicked. Money don't grow on trees. I got bills to pay, I got mouths to feed. Ain't nothing in this world for free. You know I can't slow down, I can't hold back, though. You know I wish I could. There ain't no rest for the wicked. So we close our eyes for good. Not even 15 minutes later, I'm still walking down the street when I saw a shadow of a man creep out of sight. And then he swept up from behind, he put a gun up to my head. He made it clear he wasn't looking for a fight. He said, give me all you got, I want your money, not your life. But if you try to make a move, I won't think twice. I told him, you get in my cash, but first you know I gotta ask, what made you wanna live this kind of life? She said, there ain't no rest for the wicked. Money don't grow on trees. I got bills to pay, I got mouths to feed. Ain't nothing in this world for free. You know I can't slow down, I can't hold back, though. You know I wish I could. There ain't no rest for the wicked. So we close our eyes for good. And I woke up while I was passing, I was sitting at my house. The day was winding down and coming to an end. And so I turned on the TV and flipped it over to the news, and what I saw I almost couldn't comprehend. I saw a preacher man in custody taking money from the church. He's got his bank account and a righteous dollar bill. But even still I can't say much, because I know we're all the same. Oh yes, we all seek out to satisfy those who fail. You know there ain't no rest for the wicked. Money don't grow on trees. I got bills to pay, I got mouths to feed. Ain't nothing in this world for free. I know I can't slow down, I can't hold back, though. You know I wish I could. There ain't no rest for the wicked. And so we close our eyes for good.
Welcome to the Andy Says MD show. I'm Andy Cool, your Republican nominee for Baltimore County Sheriff. And I'm representing a little bit today. Newton for State Senate. Brilliant guy. Definitely check him out. It's Newton1776.com. Today we're going to talk about the county sheriff. You know, it's what I'm running for. So it's very pertinent information. We have tons of it here. Right before me, I have 84 pages of the County Sheriff's Handbook. It's super exciting. It's a ton of knowledge that we need to use, because we need to know what to demand of our county sheriffs currently in office and of our candidates who are vying for office right now. The county sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer. We had the previous constitutional class taught by Sean Matthews, a law enforcement officer, the sheriff and the citizen. So I generally like to talk about the sheriff because he is the last person, the last line of defense, she is the last line of defense against a tyrannical government. So we're going to read a bit of it today. I'm calling this part 1 because I don't think we're going to get through 84 pages today. So we're going to dive right into it, and I definitely want to read it and show you on the screen as well, so you can either read along or have some easy listening while you're doing whatever you do. Throw your AirPods in, walk around, take a run while you're at your kid's game or something. I don't know, just listen. This is good stuff. All right, here we go. Let me bring that up. Boom, right there. So this is the first page, the cover of it. This is what we're going to start reading, and then we'll skip over a table of contents and all that because you guys know where to find it. I'm also going to be putting this on my website. Here, let me bring that up right now. I haven't put it up there yet. Oh, that's great. There we go. So this is the website for my candidacy. It is cooljustice.com. In case anybody didn't realize the play on words I've been doing, the last name is pronounced cool. So cooljustice.com. Run through here real quick. Tell you I'm running as a constitutional sheriff, and we're going to get into that with the reading of this handbook here. My slogan, I'm cool with justice, are you? There's my yard sign. Hopefully there's going to be a lot of people wanting more yard signs. I got to get some more as well. We're working on getting some volunteers together for more door knocking. I have been door knocking with a team of people so far. We're going to continue doing that, but we do need more volunteers for aiding the campaign, because running as a constitutional sheriff, there's a ton of reasons why I really need to get in office. And again, I'm already the Republican nominee, so I'm moving to the general election, and I'm going to need your help, especially in the state of Maryland, to fight against the powers that be. And one of the main things, that is going to be handled is taking care of the people by holding elected officials accountable. So we're going to get into it now with the County Sheriff's Handbook. With a firm reliance on the protection of the divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor. Thomas Jefferson. Government is not reason. It is not eloquent, it is force. Like fire, it is a dangerous servant and a fearful master. George Washington. In matters of power, let no more be heard of confidence in men, but bind him down from mischief by the chains of the Constitution. Thomas Jefferson. I swear upon the altar of God eternal hostility to every form of tyranny over the mind of man. Thomas Jefferson again. And another one. Timid men prefer the calm of despotism to the tempestuous sea of liberty. So our founding fathers are telling us all about the government that they created, and how it is so important that we have the knowledge, we know the law, and bind our officers by the Constitution. As I've said many times before, we have the laws in place already. It's just a matter of knowing them and using them to protect us from overreaching and tyrannical government. So we skipped the table of contents there. We're moving right on to the preface. And here we go. The purpose of this pocket handbook is to fully inform the American county sheriffs, deputies, and bailiffs as to their authority, duty, and the law. This handbook is an endeavor to concisely and completely cover the aforesaid in a topical style to make it easy for reference. We also created a website, www.powerofthecountysheriff.org, which I encourage people to go to further expound on the topics within this handbook, provide a further education, offer 2 free online courses, which I encourage as well, provide many pertinent documents, provide pertinent information, provide for a national platform for communications among sheriffs, and offer authoritative advice. In short, a proper education. Knowledge is power, right? Constitution for the United States of America, Article 6. The senators and representatives before mentioned, and the members of the several state legislatures and all executive and judicial officers, both of the United States and of the several states, shall be bound by oath or affirmation to support this Constitution. Sheriffs are judicial officers. Sheriff's Oath. I hereby do solemnly swear that I will support and defend this Constitution for the United States of America against all enemies, foreign and domestic. So help me God. Don't be deceived. The law is not complex. Thomas Jefferson said that common sense is the foundation for all authorities of the laws themselves and of their construction. The law of the land consists of 1. The Constitution, written by we the people under the authority of God, to empower, control, and restrict government servants. 2. Common law, which is written by God in the hearts of men. And 3. Constitutional statutes, which are written by legislators. Any statute or code outside of the aforesaid, and there are many, is null and void. And that is why we need a constitutional law protector who knows the difference. If a sheriff must depend upon a lawyer to determine the law, it's no different than giving he, your badge and the responsibility for your oath. That is not honoring your oath. Lawyers already run our government and have the people ratcheted down in unconstitutional codes, statutes, and illegal warrants. Therein is the problem in a nutshell, and the reason we need sheriffs who know the law, to either enforce the law or unenforce the quote-unquote laws. A quote here: lawyers rejected of the counsel of God, Luke 7:30. The lawyers said unto Jesus, Master, thus saying, Thou reproachest us also. And Jesus said, Woe unto you also, ye lawyers, for ye laid men with burdens, grievous to be borne, and ye yourselves touch not the burdens with one of your fingers. Woe unto you, lawyers, for ye have taken away the key of knowledge. Ye entered not in yourselves, and them that were entering in ye hindered. Luke 11:45, 46, and 52. Just to cut in real quick there, there's a lot of citing of the Bible throughout this handbook and why our country is founded on Judeo-Christian principles, and our Constitution was written under the authority of God, as mentioned before. Continuing. In order for statutes to become law, the legislators must first be given authority by we the people, which is found under Article 1, Section 8, which is restrained by Article 1, Section 9, and the Bill of Rights. This is where the sheriff's attention should be. If Congress writes statutes outside of Article 1, Section 8, or statutes that violate Section 9 or the Bill of Rights, the following general rule of the United States Supreme Court is to be applied, and herein is the power of the county sheriff. The general rule is that an unconstitutional statute, though having the form and name of law, is in reality no law, but is wholly void and ineffective for any purpose, since its unconstitutionality dates from the time of its enactment. In legal contemplation, it is as inoperative as if it had never been passed. Since an unconstitutional law is void, the general principles follow that it imposes no duties, confers no right, creates no office, bestows no power or authority on anyone, affords no protection, and justifies no acts performed under it. A void act cannot be legally consistent with a valid one. An unconstitutional law cannot operate to supersede any existing law. Indeed, insofar as a statute runs counter to the fundamental law of the land, the Constitution, it is superseded thereby. No one is bound to obey an unconstitutional law, and no courts are bound to enforce it. And there's the precedent, Bonnet versus Valier, 116 Northwest, 885, 136, 193, Wisconsin 193. Okay. Norton versus Shelby County, 118, U.S. 425 in 1886. Moving along. Let me scroll down next page for you. Show us a county sheriff that does not know the law, and we will show you a lawless county. Because it is in the nature of unrestrained government servants to seize more and more power and control over the people, this is precisely why we need a true lawman who takes pride in the knowledge of the law. The office of the sheriff is not to blindly enforce codes, rules, statutes, but to enforce the law and its constitutional statutes that prevent lawless servants from injuring the people. Sorry, I can't read today. It's up to the sheriff to bind the government servant down from mischief by the chains of the Constitution, as mentioned in the title page of this book. So, just to jump in there again, this is why the county sheriff is the only elected law enforcement officer, and he's of the highest jurisdiction, because she is supposed to protect the people against government and work for the people, unlike many agencies that are currently in operation today. Moving along. If a nation expects to be ignorant and free, it expects what never was and never will be. Thomas Jefferson. The county sheriff also has a duty to enforce the common law, which is written by God in the hearts of men. There are two common law principles that guide us in knowing the common law. In order for there to be a crime, there must be an injured party, and the government in general cannot be the injured party. For every injury, there must be a remedy. This is the simplicity of God's law. Do not kill, do not steal, do not injure, do not trespass, etc. We all know this. Make sure nobody texted me and said they can't hear me or something. Okay, moving along. What separates the sheriff from the police is the fact that the police are code enforcement officers that answer to a political servant who has the power to fire. And if the political servant is lawless, so are the police. Whereas the sheriffs are law enforcement officers that answers to we the people, directly at the ballot box. Therefore, the sheriff will be as lawful as his knowledge of the same. There are only three ways a sheriff can be removed from office. The people can vote him or her out, impeachment, and indictment by the grand jury. Scroll down for you. There are four things the sheriff needs in order to arrest a lawless judge or any lawless elected or appointed servant with impunity or fearlessness. They are 1. Knowledge of the law. 2. Knowledge that no agency or elected or appointed servant can remove a sheriff from office, nor can a sheriff be arrested unless she violates the common law, such as stealing, killing, etc. 3. The people standing behind him. This is the most important part. This is the whole reason I'm doing this, is that we need to support our sheriffs who are doing a decent job right now, but they just don't have the education, or we got to replace them. And that's why I'm running. 4. Access to the grand jury to get an indictment. The sheriffs should not be going to the county prosecutor for an indictment, as all too often they are gatekeepers for the lawless. Very interesting to find out that this is how you hold elected officials accountable. You know, everybody in the audience knows that I sued Governor Hogan in the Maryland General Assembly for unconstitutional actions and overreach. But the case was dismissed because of sovereign immunity. That's unconstitutional in itself right there. You cannot sue the government without its permission. I think we just read before that the government cannot have injury, but they can certainly cause it. Moving along. It is imperative that the sheriff have the active support of the people. The best place for the sheriff to find that is in locally controlled citizen and liberty groups. Go out and talk to them often. Ask for their support to help you protect their unalienable rights. Because they are the most active and will show up to support you when you need them. This is the importance of a posse and also an unregulated or unorganized militia. Sheriffs should keep their eye out for committees of safety, which are exploding across the nation. All 56 signers of the Declaration of Independence were members of committees of safety. Committees of safety are the most powerful tool the sheriff can have because they are we, the people. Learn about them. To see if there are committees of safety in your county, you can go to thepowerofthecountysheriff.org and click on the COS tab to find one. If there are no committees of safety in your county, you can contact the National COS Committee Chairman, whose job is to help start independent grassroots committees of safety, and he will contact patriots in your county and encourage them to start a COS and connect you with them. This is also a good idea that we need to explore. Sheriffs need to have the proper education. Oh, by the way, before I run out on this one, I have done door knocking, trying to get the support of the people several times, as I mentioned, with our team of candidates, which I can throw up their websites later. But so I've probably talked to at least over 100 people, gone to over 1,000 houses, and only one person knew exactly what the sheriff is supposed to do. And they said that they have been praying for the sheriffs since all this started, at least for the last 2 years. And then they asked me if I had the balls to be a sheriff. And I said I got nothing else. Moving along. Sheriffs need to have a proper education and the support of other properly educated sheriffs standing with them, and rarely, if necessary, an armed posse, especially if they're going up against a federal or state agency or lawless government servants. You can go to powerofthecountysheriff.org again to get the education and unite with all the other sheriffs who are awakening. Most importantly, the sheriff must have grand jury access. The sheriff has been around for hundreds of years, and like the coroner, has always had direct access to the grand jury without a monitor. The only purpose of a gatekeeper is to protect the guilty, and the only reason they can get away with having all-powerful gatekeepers is because of the sheriffs and the people's ignorance of the law of the land. Yes, the county sheriff has been around since before the Constitution. It goes back to English common law. Just because there are lawful rules and statutes that provide for prosecutors to call the grand jury, which is necessary to empower them to do so, it doesn't negate the power and authority that the sheriff and the coroner have always had and still have the authority to call the grand jury themselves. Very interesting. The major problem with prosecutors is they think that after they get an indictment, they have the power to add or remove charges or make deals. Please. Only the grand jury can add or remove charges and make a deal with the accused. But they can only make a deal if they have the consent of the injured party. That is because another common law principle says for every injury there must be a remedy. And only a trial jury can render a remedy without the consent of the injured. This is all common sense. This is common law. So called because it is common unto all. Prosecutors usually throw the book at the accused, thereby inflating jail sentences, and then later offer the accused less time if they plead guilty. That's called extortion. The county sheriff, let me scroll down for you. The county, The sheriff should always know when the grand jury is in session, so that if he wants to ask the people for an indictment against a judge or some other elected or appointed official, or maybe even the prosecutor, the sheriff can go to the court and talk to the grand jury directly. He need not explain himself to anyone, and if necessary can arrest anyone who gets in the way for obstruction of justice. Once the sheriff gets an indictment, the prosecutor cannot reduce or change the charges because of that crime. Because that's a crime. Quote here from Edward Livingston: "One single object will merit the endless gratitude of society, that of restraining the judges from usurping legislation." Thomas Jefferson to Edward Livingston. I'm sorry, it was Jefferson who said that. 1825. "The government will certainly decide for itself on whose counsel they will settle the construction of the laws they are to execute. We are to look at the intention of the legislature and to carry it into execution while the lawyers are nibbling at the words of the law." Thomas Jefferson to Albert Gallatin. "Sheriffs, whether they be a Democrat or Republican, liberal or conservative, should not indulge in party favors, only the law. That's your oath. This comprehensive handbook was written to fully inform the sheriffs and deputies of their powers and authorities that they took an oath to perform, thereby supporting and defending the Constitution for the United States of America for a higher education." Go to the powerofthecountysheriff.org. And I've actually said this several times in the recent past, is that I hate that I have to run as a Republican or Democrat, Libertarian, other unaffiliated, because the sheriff does not interpret law, the sheriff does not write law, the sheriff executes and enforces the law. So it should not be along a party line, and I think the same thing for judges as well. But continuing along to page 9, duty of the county sheriff. The sheriff is to support and defend the law of the land, aka the Constitution, and the laws of nature's God, aka common law, by which the former is vested via we the people, who are vested by the latter, not legislative bodies. We are a nation governed by the common laws of God, which makes our law superior and more just than any other nation's laws. Therefore, the oath of the county sheriff is a sacred oath, which when violated is a direct assault upon God, whose judgment will not rest forever. Thomas Jefferson professed America's covenant between God and we the people when he penned the following: "When in the course of human events it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and of nature's God entitle them, a decent respect to the opinions of mankind requires that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed." The sheriff and the court. The court belongs to the sovereign people. The United States Supreme Court defines the court as an agency of the sovereign, created by it, directly or indirectly under its authority, consisting of one or more officers: magistrate, sheriff, coroner, prosecutor, established and maintained for the purpose of hearing and determining issues of law and in fact regarding the legal rights and alleged violations thereof and of thereof, and of applying the sanctions of the law, authorized to exercise its powers in the course of law at times and places previously determined by lawful authority. Isbell versus Stovall. State and county courts are courts of record. In some cases, city courts are courts of record. For instance, New York City courts are courts of record, but all other city courts in New York State are not courts of record. To find out what courts are courts of record, look in your state constitution, which will list these courts. All other courts are called nisi prius courts, also called administrative courts. These courts are not courts of record. Unless your state constitution says differently, all city, town, and village courts are not courts of record. Bouvet's law defines nisi prius courts, where courts bearing this name exist in the United States. They are instituted by statutory provision, not constitutional. Nisi prius is a Latin term. Black's law states prius means first. Nisi means unless. A nisi prius procedure is a procedure to which a party first agrees unless he objects. A rule of procedure in courts is that if a party fails to object to something, then it means he agrees to it. A nisi procedure is a procedure to which a person has failed to object, a nisi prius court. A nisi prius court is a court which will proceed unless a party objects. The agreement to proceed is obtained from the parties first. Make sure you're still on the right spot here. Okay. The United States Supreme Court said concerning courts of record and courts not of record, the former being those whose acts and judicial proceedings are enrolled or recorded for a perpetual memory and testimony, and which have power to fine or imprison for contempt. Courts not of record are those of inferior dignity, which have no power to fine or imprison, and in which the proceedings are not enrolled or recorded. And that is the Thomas Fletcher, Irwin versus USDC, Heininger versus Davis. The sheriff has a duty to provide law enforcement officers in all courts of record, often called bailiffs, which means guardian or steward, who are sheriff's deputy in all courts of record. Like the sheriff's deputies, they are to have a proper education. It is the duty of the sheriff to make sure that his deputies have a proper education. The bailiff is not in the courtroom as a private bodyguard for the judge. She is there to protect the people, and the judge, who is also one of the people. He is there to keep the peace by making sure the law of the land is being adhered to, and that unalienable rights are not being violated. Man, does this never happen in court. If the sheriff perceives that the judge, or any other elected or appointed official for that matter, is breaking the law, the best way to proceed is to get an indictment before making an arrest. Don't trust the gatekeeper because he is likely to help the judge. Judges and prosecutors are both elected, both political, both bar members, both lawyers, and have a close working relationship, and therefore are likely to share a camaraderie. Go see the grand jury directly and secure an indictment. Court duties. Sheriffs are responsible for maintaining the safety and security of the court. A bailiff is required to attend all court sessions, to take charge of juries whenever they are outside of the courtroom, to serve court papers, to extradite prisoners, and to perform other court-related functions. sheriffs and warrants. Amendment 4. The right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrant shall issue, but upon probable cause, supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched, and the persons or things to be seized. This happens all too often. According to Black's Law Dictionary, the word oath, in its broadest sense, includes all forms of attestation by which a party signifies that he/she is bound in conscience by a solemn or formal declaration or asseveration that an affidavit is true. No warrant, including a federal warrant, is to be served without going through the sheriff's office. Any warrant without a sworn affidavit and a judge's wet ink signature, not a stamp, is not an executable warrant. It is the sheriff's duty to make sure that all warrants, federal or state, served within their county passes constitutional scrutiny. IRS warrants rarely pass constitutional scrutiny. For example, the IRS has a form 4490 called Proof of Claim for Internal Revenue Taxes, which is an affidavit form that must be filled out and sworn to, without which the warrant with the wet ink signature is not executable. Sheriffs and the county jail. Sheriff's offices maintain and operate county jails or other detention centers, community corrections facilities such as work release and halfway houses. Sheriffs are responsible for supervising inmates, protecting their rights, and providing food, clothing, exercise, recreation, and medical services. Before the sheriff is to accept any prisoner, he is to make sure the due process has been exercised. If a court sends a prisoner sentenced to be incarcerated and there was no indictment and petit jury, trial by 12 jurors, before the sentencing, the prisoner is now a victim who was not given due process. The sheriff cannot accept that prisoner. Unfortunately, because of ignorance, the county jails are filled with such prisoners. Black's Law defines an infamous crime as a crime punishable by imprisonment. Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for a capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury. Yeah, I didn't scroll along with you there, sorry. The sheriff cannot accept any prisoners that were, Amendment 6. In all criminal prosecutions, the accused shall enjoy the right to a speedy and public trial by an impartial jury. The sheriff cannot accept any prisoners that were tried in courts not of record. Interesting. Because they are in nisi prius courts and do not have the power to fine or incarcerate. Courts not of record are those of an inferior dignity, which have no power to fine or imprison, and in which the proceedings are not enrolled or recorded. This is mentioned before. Sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of the county. The sheriff is the chief executive and administrative officer of a county, being chosen by popular election. His principal duties are in aid of the criminal courts and civil courts of record, such as serving process, summoning juries, executing judgments, holding judicial sales, and the like. He is also the chief conservator of the peace within his territorial jurisdiction, Harston versus Langston. When used in statutes, the term may include a deputy sheriff, Lanier versus Town of Greenville. Justice Scalia, writing for the majority in a 1997 decision, said that the states are not subject to federal direction, and that the U.S. Congress only had discrete and enumerated powers, and the federal impotency was rendered express by the 10th Amendment. He further confirmed that the sheriff is the chief law enforcement officer of the county and also proclaimed that the states retained an inviolable sovereignty. Scalia went even further in this landmark decision, one in which two small-town sheriffs headed the feds off at the pass and sent them on their way. Scalia, in his infinite obligation to the Constitution, took this entire ruling to the 10th power when he said, "The Constitution protects us from our own best intentions, so that we may resist the temptation to concentrate power in one location as an expedient solution to the crisis of the day. Obviously, the sheriff is the people's last line of defense against a government gone rogue." Law enforcement. A sheriff always has the power to make arrests within his or her own county. Some states extend this authority to adjacent counties or to the entire state. Many sheriff's offices also perform routine patrol functions such as traffic control, accident investigations, and transportation of prisoners. Larger departments may perform criminal investigations, and some, usually large sheriff's offices, command an air patrol, a mounted patrol, or a marine patrol. Sheriffs still enlist the aid of citizens. The National Neighborhood Watch program, sponsored by the National Sheriff's Association, allows citizens and law enforcement officers to cooperate in keeping communities safe. This is why the new mission of the Indiana Sheriff's Association and their slogan is "Building Communities of Trust in all 92 Indiana counties." As the sheriff's law enforcement duties become more extensive and complex, new career opportunities exist for the people. With specialized skills, underwater diving, piloting, boating, skiing, radar technology, communications, computer technology, accounting, emergency medicine, and foreign languages, especially Spanish, French, and Vietnamese. Just courts of law rest upon 6 foundational truths. Truths are self-evident. All men are created equal. We are endowed, gifted by the Creator. We have unalienable rights. To secure these rights, we have a right to institute governments, Constitution, governments that derive their just powers from the consent of the people, wherein we ordained and established the following. We, the people of the United States, in order to form a more perfect union, establish justice, ensure domestic tranquility, provide for the common defense, promote the general welfare, and secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and our posterity. Do ordain and establish this Constitution for the United States of America. Preamble for the Constitution of the United States of America. Therefore, by the powers vested in we the people by God, we the people did ordain and establish vested powers into our government, servants who are bound by the chains of the Constitution through their oaths to the following 6 ends. Alone. 1. Form a more perfect union. 2. Establish justice. 3. Ensure domestic tranquility. 4. Provide for the common defense. 5. Promote the general welfare. And 6. Secure the blessings of liberty to ourselves and to our posterity. No legislation is to pass that does not in the end serve one or more of the aforesaid 6 ends. Any legislation to the contrary is null and void, and the sheriff is bound to treat it as such under the following general rule. General rule. The general rule is that an unconstitutional statute, though having the form and name of law, is in reality no law, but it is wholly void and ineffective for any purpose, since its unconstitutionality dates from the time of its enactment. In legal contemplation, it is as inoperative as if it has never been passed. Since an unconstitutional law is void, the general principles follow that it imposes no duties, confers no right, creates no office, bestows no power or authority on anyone. affords no protection and justifies no acts performed under it. A void act cannot be legally consistent with a valid one. An unconstitutional law cannot operate to supersede any existing law. Indeed, insofar as a statute runs counter to the fundamental law of the land, the Constitution, it is superseded thereby. No one bound to obey an unconstitutional law, and no courts are bound to enforce it. Any sheriff unable to understand and enforce the general rule violates his oath of office and wars against God and we the people. For the sheriff to correct this error, there are only two choices. 1. Study and show thyself approved by your oath, or 2. Resign the office of sheriff. It is also the duty of every sheriff to train their deputies in the law of the land. This is the very purpose of this book, to train up our sheriffs and deputies in the way they should conduct themselves and not depart from it. It has become agonizingly obvious through communicating with many sheriffs and their deputies across the nation that the majority of them are not properly educated and do not understand their oath and authority. So I'm going to cut it off there, guys. We're on page 15, and we will pick it up again on the law of the land. So I'm just going to mark that down real quick. Then we're going to head out here in a second. I want to keep these somewhat brief so that we can have it easily digestible, because people have a tough time finding the time, which is no problem, but finding the time to listen to 2 hours of stuff. So, yeah, I want to break it down. And I'll probably have a different shirt on next time to promote another candidate that I align with constitutionally. I really appreciate you guys stopping by today. Again, this will be up on the website, cooljustice.com. Here I am. And a promise again that I will take this oath of office. I will make that promise to God and the Constitution and the people to do my job and do it to the best of my ability. And I will educate the deputies and the people, because I need all of your help too. God bless.
I can feel it coming in the air tonight. Oh Lord, and I've been waiting for this moment for all of my life. Oh Lord, can you feel it coming in the air tonight? Oh Lord, oh Lord, oh Lord. Well, if you told me you were drowning,
last time.